Hey everybody, I'm John Dixon, and I'm here in Paranto's Playhouse on a quest to find the Pickleball Fountain of Youth. I don't know for a fact that I was the first person to ever do it. I know where I was when I thought of it, and I know for a fact I was the first person to do it in a sanctioned tournament.
The progression of the shot, when I first saw it played against me, I absolutely hated it. I thought, I hate this shot. This isn't pickleball. And then I learned how to do it. I loved the game. It's a shot. If everybody were talking about the Erne.
I knew I had something special. It really was like a secret weapon, and it was a secret till that moment, and then everybody was doing it.
Pickleball Fountain of Youth with Hall of Famer Steve Paranto.
Hey everybody, this is Steve Paranto with the Pickleball Fountain of Youth with another great episode today, especially if you like to know anything about the history of pickleball. All these creative shots that have occurred. I love all the names. You know, we're going to talk about the Erne today, but you know, we have the Nasty Nelson, we have the Bert, we have the Erne. So I have very special guest, John Dixon. It took a lot of investigation to find you, by the way, because you know Ernie's a good friend of mine. I know you know Erne Perry too. It is named after Erne because Erne used it in some big tournaments, nationals. But I had to do some research because he said, no, I didn't invent this. This is somebody else. And then I kept hearing Levon Major's name too.
Oh yeah.
And then I asked Levon at the Seattle Metro, so that's like 3 months ago.
Yep.
And Levon says, no, it was John Dixon.
Yeah.
So that's how I found you.
Nice.
I feel really honored that this happened because this is history for our sport that's like, well, it's the most popular sport in America, and this is history. So pretty cool to have this on our podcast, John.
Well, thanks a lot for having me. I mean, really, I'm super excited to be here and see your amazing facility.
And you haven't got to play a game yet, so we can get you on the court playing some games.
I hope so. I live in Vancouver, British Columbia now, and I've been there since 2005. And I moved around a bit in the U.S. before that, but I grew up in the Seattle area. And I was first introduced to pickleball in 1978. It was my first racket sport. I never really... I enjoyed other racket sports, but I never became a big tennis player. You know, I did play some competitive table tennis eventually, but pickleball was my first racket sport or paddle sport, I guess. Have been really, at different points in my life, has just been a passion. And my dad was a very active. In fact, he played against your father in tournaments. Doug Dixon and Arlen Paranto, of course. Yeah.
Wow.
My dad played. I left the game at the end of '94. My dad continued to play tournaments.
So here's a question I have for you, because I always tell people, here I am just about to turn 69. I played pickleball tournaments with both my mom and dad.
Yes.
And I always tell people, I don't think there's anybody else my age that can say that. Did you get to play a tournament with your dad?
I played multiple tournaments with my dad.
You're younger than me.
And I got,
I have to have the record, so I had to check that and make sure you're younger than me.
But my dad loves to tell this story. There was a point where there was one of these tournaments came, and Sid Williams was trying to flesh out the brackets, and the lower division of mixed doubles was hurting. And well, I have two younger sisters, and they were pickleball players at the time too. So there were 4 Dixons playing pickleball tournaments, and we got down to the mixed doubles final of the B division, and Sid Williams called out, now on court number 1. Dixon and Dixon against Dixon and Dixon.
Oh, wow, that's a great story.
My sister Janelle and I, it was Lori. I had Lori. Lori and I, we beat my dad and my sister Janelle in the finals of a pickleball tournament.
Wow.
So
that's a great story. So people who don't know this, when we talk about Sid Williams formed the first governing body of pickleball.
Yeah.
And back then it was the USAPA, and I believe it was United States Amateur Pickleball Association.
That's my understanding too.
And that was the first governing body. Now here's the question I have for you.
Sure.
How did you know that Sid, as a governing body, that they were going to allow? The reason I didn't do an Erne, we thought that was that's a continuous imaginary line. We can't go over there. Just like the sideline is an imaginary line when we serve. We can't be serving from way outside.
Sure.
So, we just all assumed, well, we can't do that.
Yeah.
How did you know, or
Yeah.
were you worried about that?
So
that it would be allowed?
I mean, I wasn't 100% that when I broke it was going to be allowed. I mean, so maybe I was a little bit worried that when it was done in a tournament, there was going to be a ruling against me. But I did think about that. What you just said in terms of the serve and the imaginary extension.
Right.
I realized that in the commission of play, we would always, when you're lobbing, you could never end a point with that soft ball hitting an overhead through the middle of the court. All you could do was kind of keep them back. If you were ever going to end a point on the top players hitting an overhead, and you see that in the pro game today, they take it off the side. And when they hit it off the side, what do? You go out as wide as you need to retrieve the ball and bring it back. So the fact that we were already playing well outside the side boundaries of the court told me in my head, hey, if they tell me I can't do this, it's just arbitrary. It would just be a decision made for the good of the sport, or it's not in the spirit of the rules. Hey, we can't do this. But it would have made no sense in my mind for someone to say, hey, you can't not go there.
Right.
It's not the kitchen. I actually considered, what I think they might do? They might end up extending the kitchen. They might just paint it wider.
I thought that might happen.
Yeah. But I thought this 6 months after there was about 8 of us doing it constantly in tournaments. I'd do it so much, sometimes my partner would get sick of it in the middle of a game. I don't know for a fact that I was the first person to ever do it, but I know that I thought of the shot independently. Nobody ever showed me. I know where I was when I thought of it. And I know for a fact I was the first person to do it in a sanctioned tournament, because the guy who ran the first tournaments, or I guess maybe, Sid made a ruling on it.
Yeah.
He's the guy who wrote the first rule book, and he's the one that said this is legal. Yeah. Whomever showed it to Erne probably saw, me or maybe one of my friends working on the shot at that point. But I was, going in there a few days a week in the evening time and playing on a carpeted court.
That's what
Yeah.
All through the 80s, I was playing on
Exactly.
carpet.
So, we played on wood and we played on carpet. And with the Cosum white, it's a little even slower probably than an indoor ball of today, but had 24 holes and
Actually 26.
Did it have? Sorry.
13,
Yeah. Well, I still have a few, so I'm gonna dig one out when I get home, and I'll count it.
I believe it's 13 on each half.
Okay. Yeah. You know what? I bet you're right. Yeah. But anyway, but very slow. Just compared to today's game. At the time, it was quick. It was exciting because it was what we had, right?
Right.
And it was the first time that I had seen a pro light pickleball paddle
was that
too.
what you were using at that time?
Well, it was as soon as I joined the club and met the people. Yeah, we all had pro lights. They came in 3 versions: heavy, medium, and light. Colors were limited. I preferred the heavy version.
We had the orange and the silver.
The heavy version
and,
was always orange, because I think it had an extra layer of fiberglass on the surface, had a little bit of texture to it, and that's what I played with for my doubles.
And that was all because Dad going to the Boeing surplus store and whatever material we could find.
That's right.
So we were using Nomex at first, which is really like hard cardboard, and then look, we got this fiberglass, and then we have graphite. But we just use whatever we could. You can't buy that stuff surplus anymore at the Boeing surplus store. But that was how all that.
That's how that
happened.
was coming about.
We created these different paddles just because we had different materials that were available to us.
Sure. Well, at the time when I got into the scene, the tournament scene, and that would have been, I'm not positive if I played my first tournament the end of 90, because I joined that club in the spring of 90, but I think right around early 91. Like, I've even looked over, say, Dan Gabanak's induction. I remember when he was inducted, and I saw, and they posted
We were inducted the same year together.
Okay, then. Well, perfect.
2019.
Well, on his, I recall, and I remember looking at it and talking to my good friend and former doubles partner about it. They had posted a page of him where he was both the #1 singles and #1 doubles player, those ranking sheets.
I remember
and so,
those.
but I remember going down there and you can, if you look on that page, you'll see my name there. I played tournaments for a couple years, and I went through a few partners, and I was playing open, playing at the open level, the highest level of the time.
And we didn't have anything called 5-0 or 4-0.
Nope. Then I don't even know when that came into. I wasn't playing actively when it was. I thought of the shot in the fall of '93, I practiced it for a few months. I didn't just break it out. And even when I showed this basketball player and had him just doing the shot, I kept it to myself. I didn't explain to him what I was doing. I knew I had something special, but not in the context of obviously where this game would grow to. But
No,
just
we had no clue at that.
No, really no.
Yeah. Anybody who says, us guys that played back
Yes.
then, oh, I knew the sport was going to be bullshit. None of us knew this was going to be. This is like pinch me. This sport is the most popular sport in the world. I mean, in the U.S., and it's probably going to be the world before we know it. China, China.
Oh no, I mean
that we were. If you realize when we were playing these tournaments, there were only like 75 serious tournament players in the world, probably. And now you can't even enter a tournament without a big tournament without 2,000 people signing up the first day,
fighting each other in the first 5 minutes to get precious seat or precious spots, and exactly
golden tickets.
Yeah. So no. There's no. Yeah, it's changed. It's all changed. Pre-Erne, and I don't mind calling it that at all.
Yeah.
I mean that's
what it's called forever now.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But before that shot, there was so much action that I had playing against Dave Ketter, and he was Dan Gabanak's partner at the time, and they were the #1 team in the Open Division.
And Dave Ketter actually played senior doubles with my father, Arlen.
Nice.
I showed you a picture.
Yeah, no, I saw it on the wall. With the two of you. Yeah. That's right. Yeah. Getting through Dan Gabanak, Adam Bresco, but particularly Dan and Dave Ketter. They played together. They were a partnership at this point, and I would meet them in the finals occasionally and always get beat. But there was also the problem of Dave Ketter sitting on that line on the right and just feeding the ball back and forth down that line, short court, just boom, boom, boom. And then Dan, with his tremendous wingspan, 6'4", you figure?
Yeah, 6'5".
I mean, is he 6'5"? He was a lot taller than me.
And his arms are longer than his body.
Seemed to have a lot of reach. Sometimes it felt like you swear you'd dink that ball within a foot of the net, and yet somehow his paddle found the top of it and flicked it down, and oh my gosh. So here you are. So consequently, a lot of people tried to pick on Dave, but Dave was very consistent going back and forth on that line. And I remember at the time, where I was when I thought of the shot. I don't remember exactly what day, but it was
and we're talking about the Erne.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
We're talking about the Erne.
Yeah,
Just want to make sure everybody knows.
Yeah. So it's probably around late summer, early fall of 1993 at this point. Thinking about matching up with Dave and dinking back and forth, and man, it's one of those things where I didn't see something that reminded me of anything. I think my brain had just been turning it over like, man, I'm just thinking of things. Because honestly, I was already super excited. As I was going across the street to do it, I knew it would work. I knew it would.
So initially, when you come up with this shot, of course, Erne Perry's not even in the picture yet. When you came up with this shot, you imagined yourself being on the left side because you were always there. That's where the dominant player is, and across from you was Dave Ketter on the right, because his dominant player was Dan.
Right.
Exactly.
Lefty. And I had a right-handed partner with just beautiful timing and reach and an amazing. I mean, obviously, all the pros today have they can reach in and just crack a ball. Yeah. Back then, that was a precious commodity, and I was really lucky at the point when I introduced this shot that I had the right partner to be able to do that. And so he played the right, but I thought of myself as the supporting player.
Well, that's how I always thought of it, but that's because I always had a big lefty. So I was I was the guy that would move the ball around, and my big dominant player was like hunting.
Yes.
Oh, please.
So
you felt that with two righties, that you were setting it up.
Even with two righties, although it wasn't that he was hunting, but he had all the shots. He was a super high level tennis player locally, and just really creative at the net with what he would do with the ball. And so my thought process was keeping that rally alive and keeping it safe.
Did your partner start to realize when Like, so you go jump over to do the Erne,
Yeah.
but then the opportunity doesn't happen. Did your partner learn quickly to cover for you?
Oh, he knew right away.
Yeah, okay, so
Because he
that's-
was, again, a very talented player.
Because
and
that's
and
part of the-
we would naturally, I mean, you'd think as we would do dinking rallies anyway, we would always be moving with the ball, following the play. So as soon as the ball goes over there anyway, Jimmy would slide left regardless. I mean, the fact that I took myself right off the court. But I'll tell you what did happen. It got me thinking very early, there's really kind of two kinds of Ernies. In my mind, it was just kind of jumping the kitchen. There's the kind where you would do,
Anticipate.
there was the kind where you would do it to almost like prevent somebody, to kind of steer the play. And those, to me, those are the far less effective kinds. And I remember looking at pro pickleball about 3 years ago, and there were a lot of players, they were known for attempting, or they would just simply jump out there. I think you'd see it more in mixed doubles sometimes where, you know, the woman has a male partner, he's already covering 80% of the
So the
court,
girl
and she
could
just
actually hit-
figures, what the heck, I might as
Yeah.
well go out there and
Right.
be a nuisance.
The
and
woman actually has more opportunities at the pro level to hit the Erne than the man.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely, because the guy a lot of
far-
times he's
so far
thinking he's
over.
got to cover so much more. He can't afford to get himself that far out.
Right.
Certainly not in this respect. If he's going to do that shot, he's got to wait, anticipate it, and know that the ball's already on the way. But those guys are so fast and so explosive, that's what they do anyway now. They don't go early and hope that the guy, because everyone's paying attention.
The progression of the shot, when I first saw it played against me,
Yeah.
I absolutely hated it. I thought, I hate this shot. This
Yeah.
isn't pickleball. And then I learned how to do it. And
Yeah.
I loved the game.
Yeah.
It's a shot. And I have to say now, I think it's one of the best things about our sport. I mean, it's
Yeah, because it sets it apart.
It sets it apart, and it's exciting.
Yeah.
And, you know, now we have Pro Tour making money. They've got to love the Erne,
Yeah.
right? Because it's exciting to watch. And
Yeah.
if you're going to pay to watch pro pickleball, you want to see things that are exciting to watch. You want to watch ATPs. You want to watch now people defend an ATP.
Yes.
And speaking of that, defending the Erne.
Yeah.
So let's say, you know, you as a creator of the Erne see your opponent already going.
I thought
do
about
it.
that. Somebody meeting me at the net and just
Yeah.
saying, hey, and then you almost, I mean,
I mean,
nobody.
do you ever go and just hit them? I mean, so that.
I
there's
got
one-
hit. Dan
Yeah.
Gabanak hit me when I went
Just go-
outside
just
the
go
kitchen.
directly for you.
Just bodied me right in the chest.
And I've had that happen to me too.
Yeah.
But I hated the Erne when it was done against me.
Yeah.
But I just love it when I do it.
Yeah, yeah, it is. It's definitely you. Yeah, they're fun for sure. Let me finish telling the story of the very first Erne in a tournament play,
yeah.
because there was. I mean, I thought
yeah.
of the shot.
Do you
I
know who you were
practiced
playing
the shot.
against, Stephen?
I do. I do.
When I hear
Again,
this, I might know these names.
you know them both. It was Dan and Dave.
Okay.
That's
Yeah.
because I practiced the shot for about 3 or 4 months, and I was waiting for the January tournament because this was going to be my first time playing with a new partner that he was already the best singles player at the time. His name is Jim Robinson. I remember seeing some videos again in the late teens, 14, and the commentators were talking about the best players in the world being 40 and 50, and I'm sure they were right at the time. But again, thinking back in the 90s when every one of us, I mean, Dave Ketter was the lone.
He was an old guy.
He was
Yeah.
he was
My
50.
dad's age.
He was 50
Yeah,
then.
yeah.
He was early 50s.
Yeah, but that was
But
he was a stud athlete, by the way.
I'm sure he was.
His background in sports.
he looked
played-
like a boxer. I
But
just look at
he
him
was
and
everything. He did.
yeah.
He was baseball, football.
Well, he had really fast
basketball.
hands.
He did every
He
sport.
had really
yeah.
fast hands, and that's where.
Well, you know why he had really good. So when we say people have fast hands, a lot of it's mechanics. He did a lot of windshield
Oh, yeah.
wiping.
Yeah.
So he didn't have to use both sides. You took away that by doing the Erne.
Yes,
Before the Erne, he could just sit over there like
That's right.
this and then dink and do this.
that's right.
But when you do the Erne now, he can't do that
Yeah.
anymore.
Yeah, yeah. The other player back then who played a lot, he was good, but not at the top. But was Pat Kane. Pat Kane was the windshield
another
wiper guy.
He kind of invented the windshield wiper.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that when you say that stroke,
Right.
that's who I think of as
Right.
Pat.
Yeah. Me
'Cause
too.
I-
and Pat actually switched grips though too. So he could switch to the windshield wiper, and then when he had to hit a low ball, he would switch grips.
Yeah, because you have to.
Yeah.
When you're caught in that extreme, it's basically a really extreme Western grip.
Right.
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 Forehand Western, like full Western is what it is.
Which is why everybody today is hitting the pancake grip with, they'll switch to something like that.
Sure.
I always tell my students, if you choose an extreme grip, like that, and you're going to play that way, you're going to have some extreme strengths.
Yeah.
I'm not going to hit to them. So when I look at first thing I look at is grip. Okay, they're holding this extreme grip.
Yeah.
Oh, don't hit between their shoulder.
That's their.
So let's make them reach. Yeah. They're going to have some extreme weaknesses to go with that grip.
Yeah. With that grip, the weakest spot is low on the backhand side. That's where they're really hurt.
Even low on the right. Everything low out to the sides, to the wings.
Yeah. Yep, it's true. In Continental, you're naturally set up to scoop those balls, and the other way, you're not.
Yeah. And I don't even teach Continental anymore. We're getting off track.
Here we are,
two pickleball instructors talking shop.
Cool.
So I want to know, here I know Dan Gabanak's a very good friend. What was their reaction when you did this against Ketter? And
I talked about it with my partner, and I said, look, I'm going to break this out. We're going to get to the finals because this is the team. This is our competition to win this thing. And Dan and Dave, at the time, they were basically winning every tournament.
Good combo.
Yeah. Well, no, they were dominant. Yeah. I mean, they were more than they were just the dominant team in 1992, 3, and now going into 4. Yeah. And so we get to the finals, and I'm on the left, and it didn't take long to set it up because it just play naturally went that way. We always wanted to kind of stay away from Dan and those eagle arms and just everything. So here I am, and I'm dinking across. And the first time I did it, I had so much time. I felt like I'd, if lattes were a thing, I could have gone out and gotten a latte. That's how it felt, like while I was waiting to hit this shot. So I dink, and he doesn't worry about looking at me or thinking about where I'm going to go. He's just focusing on the ball. Keep your eye on the ball. He looks down. I took a step to my left, stepped forward, reached in, and went bang. And just right down. I think it even went down between his legs the first time, just boom, and off the back. And he just startled, looked up at me, and then he looked over to his left at Dan, and Dan, and he looks over at Dan, and Dan just went like this. Dan just goes, like that. Just, okay.
Yeah.
So we played on. That was the first one. There was no real words spoken, no arguments about it. But on the second one, and it only took about 3 or 4 more rallies before it's set up again, because we played long rallies back then sometimes. 50.
The ball bounced slow.
Exactly. That slow ball on the carpet, 50 shots.
Yep.
That wasn't that uncommon. Yep. So here we are dinking, and again, I step left, jump up, hit it. As soon as I hit it down, and it was Dan, and Dan just yelled out, and he goes, "Sid!" calls out to Sid Williams over at the tournament desk. And and he's, of course, we're getting to the end. It's the end of a long Saturday. This is kind of the highlight, the open doubles finals for the men. And he's like, "Whoa!" And he gets out from behind his desk, and he comes running out to the court, and he's like, "What's going on?" We didn't have refs; we reffed ourselves.
Right.
But Sid's like, "What's going on here?" And Dan's just like, point him, just show him, and I'm like, "Okay, so Sid, this is what I'm doing. I'm just standing out here, and I'm reaching right here, and I'm hitting the ball." And I did indicate, no, I let the ball cross the net. I mean, I knew that would never fly.
Your side, yeah.
I knew right away. And he looked at it, and just plain as day says, "Looks good to me." And that was the official ruling. I think that might be a quote. Just kind of shrugged, went,
so there we
"Looks good to me."
There we go, Sid Williams. You said yes to the Erne. It could have been kibosh. No.
It could have been. Yeah. It could have been. Yeah. But no. And he went back, and then I got another one. And I think around the 5th one, Dan just says to Dave, "Quit hitting it there."
Yeah.
But it was so ingrained at the time to play that ball on the line. That was what everybody did.
That's what. Yeah, it was easy shot.
And they switched, and that's when, and they switched sides. He just put Dave over on the left, and he stood there because he was not going to lay that ball there, and he was just, of course, peeling the ball back into the middle and keeping me off that line. But then, and I should have known that he would do, at some point, he did put a ball out there, and, you know, and I thought I was going to go out there, and then I hit it out to the line to try and set it up, which is how I'm sure you teach your seniors. You got to feed that ball wide there. So I was doing that, and then I snuck out early, and I got hit right in the chest. He just hit me. He didn't try to dink the ball over. Lobbing is another really effective way, obviously. You just, because the person goes forward, they're really vulnerable to being lobbed, and you could just lob, but he didn't. Dan just hit me right in the chest. But, and my partner Jim in that, I don't think it was that very first tournament. I think it was the next tournament. My partner Jim did the first one on, you know, for a right-hander on the right side, so with his backhand. And by that time, we were now starting to just get excited about it, this new shot, and we were just simply jumping. Like, I didn't think about it, I just started doing it. So I'm sure the first few I probably stepped across the corner, then I started hopping, and then by, you know, by the March tournament, it was
now
full
we teach
on.
all the footwork for the left side guy doing the Erne, and the footwork for the right side doing the Erne.
Yeah.
It's really developed. It's a great shot. I think we should go demonstrate it on the court.
Well, we can, and I hope I don't end up tearing an Achilles, which is something that I did on a pickleball court 4 years ago, but
it's that's one we worry about.
Yeah.
Let's go try it.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you.
So here we are on the court, and this is perfect because I got John Dixon and Jim Robinson. This was his partner that he played with when he first did the Erne. And Jim and I have this crazy, we've been talking earlier, we have some other things in common. We both played for Green River Community College tennis. And we're going to kind of show you how, you know, the basic Erne works. I would think the good example for us to set is this person has no clue that you're going to hit the shot.
It shrunk the court so much.
Yeah.
You know, so it created a lot more opportunity, but it also made it so the only safe play to play we felt was right here. So synthetically, it's like the game, even though the game possibilities got bigger, the better players only wanted to play the ball in here now, because we were all so wary. You know, by the end of 1994, we were all so worried about everything happening out here. So then I even considered, I remember thinking, well, maybe they just extend the kitchen out and do something like that to prevent it. Or not entirely, because I wouldn't want to see the shot go away. Two.
So, John, that was the feeling I had the first time an Erne was hit against me. And I'm thinking, what are you doing? You can't do that. And because I thought I hit a good dink.
Right.
But you can take total advantage of it.
Oh, yeah.
And I love the shot now, though.
Yeah.
I think it's added a lot to our sport.
Oh, again, it's one of the things that really sets it apart
Sets
from
it apart from other sports. I mean, we have a few other shots that have sets our sport apart from the other racket sports. And it's what makes pickleball great. So great job.
Hey.
Great job creating the Erne.
Yeah. Well, it was born out of necessity, trust me.
Yeah.
Because I don't feel like I ever would have beaten Dan and Dave, Dan Gabanak and Dave Ketter without it back then. That's
tough.
how it felt. It really was like a secret weapon, and it was a secret till that moment, and then everybody was doing it. 1994 was filled with all the top players by the end. Yeah. I think Dan was the only one who didn't do a lot of them just because he was so tall he never needed to.
Yeah.
He could just reach in. But for all of us at the sub 6 foot level, it was a real game changer for us to be able to get outside the kitchen there and pretend we had all that reach. Synthetic reach right to the net.
I like that, synthetic reach.